Let's talk all about AI in business. It's hosted by Brent Muller. Welcome to the Future Proof Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the latest episode of Future Proof, the podcast where we're decoding how founders, leaders, and execs are changing the business landscape with emerging technology like AI. So if you're looking to future-proof your business, you're definitely in the right place. And before we jump into today's episode, let me just tell everybody, if you are looking to understand how AI fits into your business, you want to explore how it can, some of the use cases that we're doing, or you just want to have a 15-minute conversation with us, there's links in the show notes. We never pitch. We're there to help. And, if there's something we have that we can help here at Deploy, we're happy to talk through that with you. Anyway, let's jump into today's episode. I am joined today by Sven Pietsch from Innaloft. Sven, thank you for joining today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah. So let's jump right in as we always do. Let's talk with your background, what I call leader's journey. So talk to us about, how everything leading up to Innaloft.
No, super cool. Yeah, that's an interesting story. I was going to school, going to high school, and going to university all the time, having in mind I want to end up in the mechanical engineering sector, building up power plants or renewable energy sites. And now I'm ended up completely with software development. So this entire plan that I had during my whole life so far.
Yeah, that's a big pivot.
So yeah, life plays games with you, right? And at the end, it turns out to be completely different. So yeah, at some point, I did my studies, mechanical engineering, did it in Aachen, did it in California, Aachen, Germany, California, US, and also did 1 year in Beijing. We then came back to Germany and started a project at university. And the idea was, how can we make sure that energy innovations are finding its way to the industry? Because we saw that in the university, there are so many ideas of how to transition the energy system, how to use all these new energy forms that we can use, and why are they still stuck at the universities, and why they don't enter business or enter industries. And to do this, we said, okay, we need to transform the way we do research transfer and license transfer. So we started up with a digital platform. And we developed the software on its own. And after 3 or 4 years, we got more and more requests from outside and said, hey, this platform that you built up for Aachen University, which framework did you use? How can I do the same thing for my university? And we said, there's nothing. We did it on our own, right? And then we realized, we built something that out there is also needed by others. And then we did a spin-off from this first project. First project was called Innaloft, right? And then we said, okay, we don't need to focus on energy because the issue is everywhere. And then the spin-off that we did now was using the software, modularizing it, putting it into white label possibilities, and then started also to enlarge the use cases. And nowadays, Loft OS, as the name maybe already predicts, is like an operating system, an infrastructure, no-code infrastructure that helps companies, universities, and governments to build web applications, especially complex ones like portals, communities, networks, marketplaces. So where communication plays a big role. That's why Loft, right? A big room that brings everyone together. And that's what we do. So we have the focus in Germany, having 15% of German universities, 50% of German state governments, and big corporates like T-Mobile, Austrian Post, and others as our customers since October last year. Then also started here in America. I'm currently sitting in Austin, Texas, building up our US entity. That's maybe our journey in very short 2 minutes. Started with something completely else.
Yeah. You know what's great about that? Yeah. You're in the hub, right? I mean, whether you're in the Bay Area or you're in Austin, Texas, those are the two hubs where innovation is happening faster. We have tons of our guests that are in each of those two areas. So you're fitting right in that mold, and it's fantastic. And we're really excited. So Sven, talk to me a little bit about Loft OS and what it really does for your customers. Because, to me, that no code puts the creativity and ingenuity from people within the company to create things that typically they had to wait on tech to do.
That's definitely the thing. So we saw once we started that digitization is everywhere, right? There is no single company, being it a corporate or being it like a little ice cream shop around the corner, that can say, okay, digitization is nothing for me. At the same time, we saw that especially then SMEs and bigger companies, if they start a digitization project, it takes them months. Sometimes it takes them years to do something, right?
Yes.
And why is it? Because until today, they all rely on their IT department. Even if they buy tools from outside, it's all going actually through IT. And I did not met this single IT department where you just go and say, hey, I have an idea. And the IT department say, cool, let's start tomorrow. I have nothing to do at the moment, right? Doesn't exist.
Does not exist.
Does not exist. No. So we see that we say, okay, if we want to really make companies faster and digitize their business model, automate processes, we need to enable not only the tech people in the company, but also everyone in the company to work on this. And I don't know how it is in America, to be fair, at the moment, but in Germany last year, there have been more than 140,000 open IT vacancies in the companies. So that means it's not only the case that the IT departments are blocked with work. Sometimes there even is no IT department, right? Because they just do not find the talents on the market. Because if you are an IT talent currently on the market, maybe not in the last two or 3 months, but it will come back. And also before, you could choose your job, right? And then, of course, if you can go to Apple, to Google, to Microsoft,
right,
who goes to the SME in any little city around Austin that maybe focuses, I don't know, on construction machines, right? If you can go to Apple just 15 minutes farther. And that's why I said, okay, we need to have a solution for these companies. And that's why we focus on no code. No code means for us that we have a huge library with pre-configured modules. You can just go to the library, choose the modules that that you need, put them together to an application, and then you can be sure that this application will directly work, because you don't need to code. You don't need to understand anything about code. You can just actually use it directly. And this is something that is really loved by our customers. So even if you don't understand anything about coding, you will be able to create even complex web applications with Loft OS. And it will not take you months or years that even the IT department needs. If they start to code it, you can be done in a few hours, right? There was the biggest use case that I love to share with T-Mobile. We built like some kind of customer portal for them. And if they would develop this customer portal with their own IT department, it would take them more than 1.5 years to develop it. We built it up in 19 hours. And normally,
in 19 hours?
In 19 hours. And normally it was cost them a 7-digit number, and we charged them a 5-digit number for using this software. So it's a more than 70,000% time decrease, and more than 2,000% cost decrease.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And you probably have even more case studies like that, which is, to me, that's what no code's all about, is putting the power of technology and innovation in the hands of anybody within the company. And they, not, to your point, not relying on IT, but the speed and implementation ability of the AI powered stuff behind the scenes is game changing. It's hard to even put that math equation together, right? 1.5 years versus 19 hours is insane. And then the best part is then they can work on iterating and refining the things that they forgot to build into it and making it better.
Exactly, because if you work with your agency, every change request that you have will cost you again like a 5-digit number, right? Because they will charge you again for all the hours that they do. And then you start to say, okay, is it now worth it to iterate? And is it now worth it to bring in this new feature? And all this is vanished because you can just actually go to the admin area and you can choose more modules. You can customize the existing modules. You can add columns to the databases. You can add input fields to any kind of form. You just do it, right? You change the design, you change the color, and if you see tomorrow you send out a survey and the customers don't like it, you just change it again, right? Something
fantastic.
You would never do if you work with any agencies or coders. So that's the huge flexibility that people love about using Loft OS.
Yeah, and you're not just cutting out the middleman, you're cutting out the translator, right? That's in the middle, right? That's what IT typically, like the hardest part when you had IT build stuff was to try to convey to them what you're trying to build. ERD documents and technical requirements, all that's out the window because you can actually, this is what they always envisioned when they started agile development, right? Of that iterative and, build, tweak. And I think that what you've built, Sven, is exactly what companies that want to implement this kind of, marketplace and communities and portals is exactly what they were always hoping for. So I think it's really, really cool. So what have you seen in the industry in general, right? You talk to lots of people across different industries and companies and marketing departments. What are you seeing as the shift in the industry?
The shift in the industry is like continuously to be the first point. So we see it like since years, that from pro code at the beginning, like where people really code something on their own, right? It went to low code, where you said, okay, they're like different components and the coder can then just put together the components, but still need to build and code the interfaces between these components.
Right. The connectors, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Right. Then we went to no code. What we are doing actually, we say, okay, not even these interfaces you need to build anymore, because you can just actually connect all the dots by drag and drop, right? And everything that then you need on the code side happens in the back. And once we jumped from low code to no code, we enabled thousands of millions of people out there actually to really start to build online web applications online, because with low code, they still would need some kind of technical understanding. They would still need to understand how to code. With no code, there's no knowledge needed at all anymore, right? So that was like what we saw over the last years. And then, of course, I mean, not a surprise that AI brings also like a lot of movement into this whole industry again.
Yep.
There are a lot of interesting developments currently going on. We can definitely talk about this in a minute. But of course, AI will shape the coding and the web development industry heavily. Probably it already did, because you can use ChatGPT, you can use Copilot. If you are a coder, and these tools will make your life so much easier, being it in really developing something, but especially also in testing something, checking something, finding bugs, right? So all these things increases the easiness for coders to create web development. So that's one point. On the other point, we also have all these big tools currently online, like V0, Vercel, probably the biggest one, but also other tools then like Create, XYZ or Lovable, that gives you the opportunity to prompt, and then AI will really create the code and create the application for you, right? So that's, of course, like a huge improvement. If you see that before that, you need like sometimes 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 developers to do it, and their salaries, right? Where they then coded it after the months. And now there's one single AI and build up the whole thing in 10 minutes.
Yep.
So that's, of course, like a huge shift that happens still. And that's also then the downside of these tools. If you are a founder, an entrepreneur, you can just use these tools and just deploy it, right? And say, okay, this is my new webpage. This is then maybe my marketplace here, built with V0. And you can then just use it. But if you are a corporate, if you are T-Mobile, you will not say your sales department, hey, go to Lovable, say Lovable, build a custom portal for me, and then you just deploy it and use it, right?
Right.
Because if there's like then any little thing that doesn't work, hundreds or thousands of customers will complain because there might be is a bug in there, right? Or worse, if there's like a data privacy issue, and you then have like a lawsuit from 10 million euros from someone, T-Mobile cannot go to Lovable or V0 and say, hey, I used your code, so please reimburse me for the 10 million here, right? They will say, I'm sorry, I just provide you code, but if this code really works, your responsibility, right? So it turns out, especially for corporates and established companies, they still need coders to actually bring all these applications to life, or at least to check the code that the AI was then producing, and checking their code with 10,000 or 50,000 lines, or even 100,000 lines. And for everyone that does coding and knows how frustrating it is, like to check 100
someone else's code
from someone else. Yes, right, exactly. So that's where we said, okay, this is our opportunity, because we also implement AI and say now, You can also prompt on Loft OS and say what you need. But in contrast to producing code, the only thing that Loft OS does is actually configuring the building blocks that are already there. But the building blocks are already coded from us, so we know what's in there. And the interfaces between the building blocks are already coded from us, so we know how they work. And this means we take the responsibility for the application that comes out of it. If there is something else, we are responsible. We are hosting it. We send the normal SaaS contract to the companies, and that's what they know, right? So it's not that they get code and they become responsible for it. They get from us a software as a service solution with a SLA contract, service contract, right? So they know what they get. We take the responsibility. And we do not need coders to check our code because we know the code that we have created is secured, right? And this is why we focus completely on the established sector, on the B2B sector, because until now, as long as we know, there are no companies saying, I get rid of my Salesforce CRM, I get rid of my Pipedrive CRM, and I go now to V0 and build my CRM there, right? And I don't pay the money to Salesforce anymore. That doesn't happen because the companies still want to have Salesforce in control, and still want to have the governance somewhere to make sure, okay, this actually really works. And this is exactly what we do.
Got it. No, it's fantastic. I love it, Sven, and it makes a lot of sense. And this is kind of one of the themes that we've had on the podcast, is explaining to companies about the difference between using commercial things that are out there, right? To your point, it's great to use ChatGPT, but if you're using it, you have to understand what the security are, what kind of data you're giving to them. But then you start using these other tools, and you're right. They're not going to indemnify you. They're not going to tell you that your code is wrong. And that's why platforms like yours exist. And it's fantastic because this is how companies that have to have regulations and have to have compliance, this is how they can use the same features and functionality, but at a level in which they can get the results that they need and feel good about their security and compliance. So Sven, tell us about how AI is continuing to impact the industries, and also how you guys are using AI to kind of change the game.
Yeah. So it will all become more, right? So there will be more AI tools that make the life of coders even easier than today. There will be more AI tools that configure software as a service solutions like us. And this means that I see that IT will become more and more a real commodity, right? So it does not put you in any kind of inferior position if you got like a certain AI system, right? Because, a web application, because everyone else out there can build in a few minutes the same web application as well, right? There was this very nice post on Reddit a few months ago where someone published a prompt with 2,000 lines or something that would build something like V0 from Vercel again, right? So a tool that creates web applications by prompts is created by a prompt, which is like super interesting, right? Which again shows actually how fast this entire industry is going, and it will probably become even faster. So the question, of course, and also for us is, how do we position in such a market? And we, for us, again, decided to say, okay, we don't want to go into the race of these coding tools, because probably at the end,
it's a race to the bottom.
Yeah. ChatGPT will probably still make it because it just can put the most money in it, but maybe also Copilot because they have so much data they can use. I don't know whether the startups at the end can really succeed, probably just because of the money. If you see how many billions they are going into these very big tools. But this is why we, for us, said, okay, we want to still focus on this SaaS space. We want to be the service provider for our customers, and we just use AI to make the life of our customers as easy as possible, being it in figuring out what they really need, right?
Right.
Go to an SME out there that produces construction machines and ask them, hey, how can you digitize your business? It's not an easy question, right? Especially if you normally focus on construction machines.
Right.
So having AI systems in place that advise these people of what can they do.
That's fantastic.
Something already like super huge that currently is done by manual people, and we call it like advisors, right? Consultants.
Right.
So they're going to be an AI system. We also work on this actually to make sure that we can advise people what can they even do. Then we have the building part, making sure actually what can you build with code and how can you put together the components. That's then what we call the builder, the AI builder. And then at the end, there's also like a huge space where also in my eyes currently no one is putting a look into this. How is the software afterwards implemented in the company, right? Especially in established companies, we know this. There are like a lot of established employees that work there for 15 years, for 20 years, and they do the process since 20 years the exact same way. Here's my paper, here's my pen, I fill it out, I put the paper there. Now you go and say, okay, now you use the digital system, and we know all the stories where then also like the implementation of new digital tools in the workforce of the company with the employees is a challenge. So we also take a look at what can AI do actually to make this transition smoother for our customers. So this is going to be like for product-wise, the three things where we see AI plays a huge role when it comes to our own product. And then of course we use AI at other tools, be it in marketing, be it in sales, to make sure that we also become more effective. But when we take a look at the product, it's the three things I just said.
I love it. Love it. And I think people will be very enamored on how your platform helps them from start to finish. And people don't think about, the front end of what to digitize, but certainly not on the back end of what software is actually in there. And how do you maintain it? How do you upgrade it? How do you tweak it? Right. And so, all that kind of stuff. So no, it's great, Sven. And Sven, I told you I was going to ask you one last final question, which is, if you could fix one thing with your own business with AI, what would it be?
We still struggle with the entire marketing and sales funnel. We use like a lot of tools that are all not connected. We have to do all this interconnection on our own. I dream of this system where I say, hey, this is my webpage. It describes perfectly what Loft OS does. Now go and find me the perfect customers for it and send me the meeting, right? So we do so much effort. And I also know from other startup colleagues, they do the same exact effort in getting the sales machine running, getting the leads, doing the prospects, writing automatic emails, go LinkedIn automation and write LinkedIn messages. So it's such an effort to get actually in front of the people that can need your software. If AI at some point can help here and fix this problem, I would love it, right? I tested out some of the AI tools that say, we do like AI sales automation. For me, until now, it didn't work because the texts have been somehow messy that came out of it. The emails did not went out. The prospect have been wrong.
Yeah.
So I hope that at some point there will be someone showing me this AI sales automation system where I just sit back at my desk and I see like the meetings coming in. I can pay these two then money, right? No question. But someone that can really solve this sales issue, marketing and sales issue, that would be super, super helpful. And
that's it. That sales, we call it the deploys autonomous sales engine. We'll talk to you about that, right? Again, everybody that comes on the podcast that has that problem, we love to talk to them about it because AI can do that. It's just most people don't know how to do it. Just like most people don't know all the things that you just described of what Loft OS does and can do, and they're still going out and hiring teams that take a year and 9 months to build, which they could build in less than a week with you. And so, Sven, you know what? I'm so glad you came on the podcast because, one, we need to highlight this to other founders about what's possible. They all kind of have it, but they only know snippets. And my job on this podcast is to highlight this kind of technology to other founders so they can see what they should be doing versus what their teams are actually doing. And the job and the audience. So if you're listening to this and you're a founder or a leader, and you're thinking about some of the things that Loft OS can do, right? Not only do you want to talk to Sven and his team, but you want to start to think about questioning your leadership team about the different areas within the company, because as Sven pointed out, this is not for IT anymore. You're not dependent on IT. My big theme has been, Sven, to talk to people is that AI is not IT. And there now are no-code solutions that should not prevent different departments from instituting automation and innovation, right, for their specific part in the company, because it's possible to do this without waiting on IT anymore. And to do it, to your point, in a very compliant way within the company. And this is why platforms like you have with Loft OS are absolutely just need to be out there in front of more people. So Sven, thank you for spending time with us today. We're going to put all the links for Innaloft below, but tell everybody how to get in touch with you. Yeah. Well, like I said, the links will be right in the show notes. So just click on the link. But, I love, having all of our founders and leaders just, explain how easy it is to get into contact with them, because this is how business should be done. Right? And the fact that you can move the needle and move innovation forward so fast, and digital transformation so fast for companies that they'd be crazy not to talk to you. So thank you again for spending time with us and for sharing your insights in the industry. We can't wait to get this episode live. And that wraps up this episode of Future Proof. And like I said, if you're looking to future proof your business, this is exactly why, right? Because there's innovation and platforms out there that can help streamline your efficiency, improve communication, and just help overall business growth. And Loft OS from Innaloft is absolutely one of those ways. So thank you again. And guys, that wraps up this episode of Future Proof. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
If you're ready to embrace change and lead with innovation, be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Future Proof Podcast.